So Parvati is what? Parvati is Shakti, is pure energy. All right. And the Parashakti, the supreme energy in the human body, it resides in your Muladhara chakra or your basic chakra or the Kundalini energy, right? It is said that when we purify ourselves, ridding ourselves of the impurities that bind us, then when we are purified, the Lord automatically comes. So that is why when Parvati was having a bath, she was purifying herself. Lord Shiva, which is the supreme auspiciousness, came unannounced as Parvati was bathing. That is one level of symbolism here. Then Nandi, Shiva's bull, who Parvati first sent to guard the door, represents the divine temperament. Okay, so when you have a temperament of the divine, there is so much of devotion that that divine temperament is easily able to recognize the Lord. So Nandi was so devoted to Shiva that every thought is directed towards Lord Shiva, and he is easily able to recognize him the moment he comes. This shows the attitude of a spiritual aspirant in what gains access to the Kundalini Shakti. So if you are deeply devoted, you are able to use that energy to wake up the Kundalini energy within you. All right. That is one level of symbolism. And that Kundalini energy allows you to upgrade your physical body to be able to withstand the energy that you get during the meditations, which will be taught to you in the Arhatic Yoga class as and when you do it. All right. So one must develop the attitude of being a devotee first, ardent devotee, before hoping to be qualified for the highest achievement of spiritual attainment, which the Devi or the Parashakti grants you. Okay, so when Nandi allowed Shiva to enter, Parvati took the turmeric paste and then created Ganesha. And you know the color of the paste. Those who have done advanced pranic healing would understand what color is used. Is reflective also in the basic chakra, right, where the Kundalini resides. So that's also an indication of the color that is available in the basic chakra, color of the sandalwood. And so Ganesha is the deity who guards that chakra. In a lot of pictures, you will also find that at the Muladhara, there is this picture of an elephant. Okay. So Devi needed to create this Ganesha to represent the earth-bound awareness as a shield to protect the divine energies or divine secret from unripe minds. All right. It is when this awareness begins to turn away from things of the world and towards the divine, as Nandi had turned his attention, then the great secret is revealed to us. So this is one level of symbolism or meaning of the entire process. And Shiva is the supreme lord, supreme teacher. Ganesha here represents the ego-bound body or jiva, right? Ego is defined as the identification of oneself as this limited body, mind, and intellect. All right, that is what the ego represents. So when the Lord comes, the jiva, surrounded as it is with the murky cloud of the ego, is unable to recognize the Lord. And that is what happens in our lives. We are so egoistic that we are doing things, that we are great. We do not have time for God, and we think we will handle everything. And then a time comes when things go out of our hand, and then we are stuck. But since we have no connection, we are left in the lurch. All right. And we also fight, we also blame God for whatever our situation is. So when Ganesha, ego-filled Jivatma, sees the Lord, he's unable to recognize it and he fights the Lord. Therefore, it is the duty of the Lord in the form of a guru to destroy the ego so that however powerful it may be. The ego was very powerful. It's not going to let you go easily, right? The army fight, he defeats the army. So ego is a powerful entity within you. The ahankar, that we are this, we are doing it. I am greater than you. I am that, you are that. This sense of duality is what the ego thrives on. All right. And with our five senses, we are only able to see this duality. Okay. And that's where the ego thrives. So the guru has to come, the teacher has to come to slay and sever the head of the ego. Okay. So that is how the Ganesha represents the limited ego, and that has to be severed. And then the ego dies, the liberated jiva. When the ego dies, the jiva gets embodied, soul gets liberated to a certain level. There is a sense of soul consciousness, and then you lose interest in the material world. The physical world here is represented by the Devi, and this impermanent, transient, changeable world uh, belongs to the body, to which the body belongs, is unchangingly is connected to the creation by the unchanging absolute, or the substratum on which everything changes. This substratum, which is unchangeable and absolute, is represented by Shiva. All right, that's why Shiva and Shakti together create the entire circle or the whole. So, as per the story, Shiva restores life to Ganesha, replacing his head with an elephant's head, meaning that the small ego is now replaced with a big head. The big head represents intelligence, uh, abundance, vastness, an ego which is unlimited or uh, universal. Okay, which takes everybody in. That means that ego which knows that it is part of that divine. Okay, so it doesn't mean that they become more egoistic. The ego is so big that the ego wants to merge with that divine energy. That is the level of ego. We don't have a small ego fighting for small things, take from somebody else and demean somebody else and uh, go on a small uh, limited ego trip. This ego is so huge that he wants to become that and serve the entire world. Now, that is the level of ego that one should have. I remember when I was small, I used to always say that my ego is so big that nobody can see it. I don't know why I used to say that, but now when I read this story, I said, well, it makes a lot of sense. So that should be your level of ego, that the small things is not your victories. Your victory, your battle is the big one, where you go beyond your body, mind, and intellect, and you can have the power and the ego to merge with the divine. That should be the level of ego that we should constantly strive for. Okay. So when the limited ego dies, the Lord or the divine spiritual energy is revealed, your consciousness starts to rise, and things start to change for you. So, and then that is how the story moves ahead. And we will study about the details of Ganesha in the future, maybe the next session. So this is a small representation of what we can learn from the story of Ganesha. I hope it was interesting.